Greetings. This is Arvette McLean with Speak, The Universe Listens. New ways to view age-old challenges. Change your thoughts, change your life. Step into the bigness of you.
Everybody.
Hey.
I'm still a little pumped up because Zari did a little something for my birthday, and y'all can see the bling bling on my finger.
Zari did that.
So I did want to reintroduce Zari. This is her third time joining us. And she's all the way from Florida, but she's been living somewhere everywhere, but she's visiting us.
That's right.
And actually, she's going to start our topic off today.
Yes, I'm so excited. Thank you for letting me bring my topic this time when I'm coming to town. And what I decided I wanted to bring up, inspired by your book. I told you I like to read your book a lot when sometimes I don't have as much time to talk to you. And one of the things you brought up was having the faith of a mustard seed if you can't move mountains. And I had wanted to kind of bring it up to the group and kind of just like get an idea. You know, I'm so super planty, seeds, anything like that. But when I thought about in context what the passage went to in the book, and I don't want to talk about that too much, like you should read it. But I had wanted to think about like what does it take when you think of yourself having, you know, enough faith of a mustard seed to move a mountain. Like what does that kind of mean to you in context? It's something I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
That's a great question. To me, I instantly think of like walk by faith, not by sight. So I feel like if I have my focus on like my faith in whatever is going on, then I feel like that's enough to do anything. I feel like that's what I think about when I hear that.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of very similar. The quote to me kind of just says like, all the power I need is in just believing. Like that's all it takes is just a little believing, and you can do whatever you like. So that's what I think of whenever I hear it. It's like just believe a little, and you can move a lot.
Okay.
And I think about the same thing, just pretty much just believing, having a strong belief that whatever it is that you have your mind set to, that it can be accomplished.
Yes. You know what why I had wanted to bring it up when I read it, I was reading it in like coaching with something else, is helping people like understand that mustard, when they say mustard seed, a mustard seed comes from mustard green, you know, like greens, like mustard greens, turnip greens, like that. So you'll get like a turnip from a mustard. You can eat the leaves of the mustard. You wait for it to flower. You get the seeds of a mustard. They call it mustard because you make mustard out of mustard seeds. If you didn't know that, it is made out of the same seed. So it has so many uses similar to what our ancestors had to figure out how to do. George Washington Carver went to like 300 with it, but I like to think of like that kind of faith. Like when you have that kind of faith, like you can create anything. Even from the smallest of things, you will be surprised the kind of things and uses that it has, and applying that to myself. Like I'd be surprised the kind of uses and things that I can create with my own faith in myself. So that's why I was like, love that, love it. I'm like, can't wait to ad lib off and add it to my thing, because I love the walk by the faith thing, because that's exactly what I felt like it represented for me when I read it, and I wanted to bring it up. So I'm happy we're all on the same page.
Well, I have a slightly different.
Even that, we need to learn from you.
This is very slightly different because in hindsight, when I was a kid, I literally would read that quote over and over because my mom had a little pendant necklace and it was her heart shaped and it had a little teeny mustard seed in it. And I used to just love sneaking in her room, going into that drawer and getting that box. And you just open the box and the little piece of paper was in it. It was like, if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you have the power to move mountains. And I would just love reading it. Like, and now I remember I used to think like, do I have as much faith as a mustard seed? And then I'm like, yeah, I got that much faith.
Right.
I have that much faith. So then my question was, how do I move the mountain? And so I would always be like, how do I move the mountain? And I would just think about different ways, like, you know, do I get a shovel
Oh, right.
and move the mountain? Like, how can I move the mountain? And like that part of the question
Right.
was persistent in my mind for like probably a few years. I don't know how long. But then at some point I dropped the how, right? And I just literally believed, and I would just see the mountain in my mind moving. Now, as a child, that was it. So I would just, you know, I would do that and just watch the mountain move. But in hindsight, as an adult, I realized the power of that quote. It is what everybody has said, but also the other power in that quote is, one, realizing that we have the power. So we have the faith, but we also have the power, and that's what we forget. We have the faith, and then we want something else to do the work, and when that thing doesn't do it, we're like, that thing ain't right.
It's worthless.
But it's like, you have the power, and so that's a key word. And then the other part of that is dropping the how. And when you drop the how, that's when you realize you really have the faith. Because I just believed, and it's at least a million ways that it can happen. So I could do it with a shovel, I could do it with a straw, you know, I could kick it, I can get a crane. It's like a million ways, or I can just let it dissolve. It's, you know, it's so many different ways, but I don't have to figure that part out. That's the part of the power, and that's the part that we can tap into at will, the power of the universe, and just believing that we have that power. And so many times when we talk about I have faith, you know, I believe, we're believing in something outside of us that's going to come and save us, believing in something outside of us to give us a miracle. But to me, the power in that quote is that if you have the faith of a mustard seed, you have the power to move mountains.
The faith and the power is how you see it.
Well, for me, the faith was never a question.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, like, you can have the faith and the power, and you have to have it all in the quote. That's what, because you said you've been reading it since you were a child, so you really don't have the time to like I got this one. That's so beautiful.
And I do feel like it would really be hard in my head. It would be hard to not have the faith of a mustard seed. Like a mustard seed is like, it's just teeny, and it's like, you know, that was almost not a question. I'm like, do I have the faith of a mustard seed? Absolutely.
So precious.
I think that is amazing. It's so I used to read the quote a lot as a kid too, but every time I read it, I was just reading and never taking what you were taking from it. So I think that is amazing. But it brought me back to one story now that I remember. I remember being in the hospital. I was sick at the time. I was having some stomach issues, and there was a kid who was in the bed right next to me. I never met this kid before in my life. It was like the first time I ever had a roommate in the hospital. So I'm thrilled. I'm like, oh, I got a friend. We got somebody to play the game finally. Like, so I'm having a good time or whatever. So he gives me, having a good time in the hospital. But, so he gives me the mustard seed, and he's like, hey, man, like, you hold on to that and just know that we both about to be out here soon. And I was like, yeah, but like, I knew that I was really about to be out there soon. So in my mind, I just thought he knew, like, oh, you know, we about to both get discharged soon. But he was telling me, no, if we both have the faith, we both gonna be fine to be out of here soon. So thank you for the power, because that reminded me that we had the power to heal ourselves in that moment.
Love it.
And now I hope that he healed himself in that moment.
I love that. And you said you were young, like you were thinking about playing a video game in the hospital, but for the boys to say that to you, like, hey, we is this together, Rumi. Yes, I love it. you know, seeds and plants and all, I'm always going to have something to say. But yeah, I love that. That's very inspirational. I'm going to hold on to everything y'all said and in regards to me deciding to bring a topic this time. So definitely boosted me up. I'm like, okay. So I had a lot of faith. No wonder that mountain moved.
Also, like was already said, going into all the different ways that a mustard seed can be used, because it reminded me of exactly what the saying was. And like, so I would hear the saying and never really attribute any of the words to what they were, but like to think of this as an actual seed. Like, so you have the seed, this grows into things, this blossoms, it grows, and then you listed all the different things that could be used for. And I think that in itself is also incredible, because while I look at this seed and I think all I got to do is have this much faith, that seed is also very large in the.
It's going to turn into something.
Yeah.
It's going to turn into something, right? And that's what makes it kind of like. And I think that's why that quote, you know, the Bible got lots of people pick whatever you want to, but that one can kind of resonate to folk because it's not really just like believe in Jesus or any of the other things that might make someone sway away from why this could be for everyone. You know, and I know people have their reasons and ins and outs. And so, but when I read it, like I always learned it from the reasons from church. But knowing that and what my grandmother would say to me about mustard seed and knowing that back end story of there's a lot of uses for a mustard seed and we did have to figure them out. And we have the power now to, you know, like really move the mountains. Like back then, back then that's what you had to worry about. Like, what else can you turn this into? Because this is all you have. And we have so much more now. Like, whew, it just can make you so grateful. Just even the stuff you think you don't have.
And I think what you're saying about what can you do from it? Okay, so the mustard seed, the faith, if you have that little thing inside, right? Just a little bit of faith, it's going to blossom. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of things, kind of what she was alluding to, is it just seemed like maybe it's not enough. Mm-hmm. But if you appreciate that thing, it will be enough. Mm-hmm. It's going to blossom. It's going to turn into more and more and more things that you never even thought of. And so often we'll just say, I don't have blank. This is not enough. And I don't have what I want, and I don't have what I need. Not realizing that if we appreciate this seed, that it's going to grow into everything. And so whenever we're saying we don't have, we are continuing to create the whole concept, the whole scenario of not having it. And so rather than saying I don't have collard greens, all I have is a seed, we can appreciate the seed, and then we can have the mustard greens.
Right, but really though, and then even when you say you don't have it, you leave one plant in the ground, it's going to turn into a flower, and this flower is going to have so many seeds, like enough seeds to fill like a pack. And that's why sometimes you'll buy a pack of seeds and it only has like 10 seeds in it. You could buy mammoth sunflower seeds, I promise you. This is just a specific example. And you'll probably get like 5 or 7 seeds, like max. It's going to be weighed. Because they know once you plant one, you're going to get a whole mammoth sunflower seed head that's going to be full of them. You'll have more than you need. And you keep doing that. You keep having that faith each season, you know, and you know, tenfold your harvest. And that's also, you know, like a thing, like you reap what you sow. Start from one seed, like the faith of what you could plant from one plant. You gotta go do a whole garden.
I remember just thinking at one time in my life, I wanted to make a certain amount of money, you know, at a job, and I couldn't believe even see me making a certain amount of money that I thought that I was worthy of or that I wanted to make. And eventually over years and over time, I gotten to that point, and then I had to just stop and realize like, dang, you know, I had this much faith back then, you know, that I will be making what I'm making now. And I couldn't even believe it at one time, but I wanted it, you know,
that's
but
right.
I had to really just believe in it, and over time it just blossomed for me, and it was like now appreciating that, and I see it, so it's pretty awesome. As long as you believe in yourself, that's the biggest thing, believing in yourself, and like you said, Arvette, not really looking at on the outside of you for when it comes to just believing.
Love it.
I like too what you said about just realizing, all right, I know I at least got enough of a mustard seed, because it's like you always can come back to that. Like, all right, if everything seems like it's not going right or whatever the case may be, I know I at least got that, and that's
Exactly.
enough to do whatever.
Exactly. That's why our vet was like, you know what? Maybe I need to go look at the necklace again. She's like, let me go remind myself. I got that. Okay. Even when you said you had it memorized, you spent so many years like developing what your meaning was behind it. I don't think I've ever like done that, but now I'm like, I get it. I think we all are like, okay, I get it though. Like that's a really way to like absorb it into your spirit. I love it.
And I think the whole process, of course I didn't think of this as a child, but the whole process of the visualizing or seeing the mountain move, like that is the power of creation. That is what we spend time talking about on this podcast, is just the ability to see whatever the thing is. And I remember it would be so satisfying for me to just see the mountain move across the landscape of my mind. And so it's the same thing with everything we want to create or have more of. We can just see it, just see it and enjoy it.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I like that. Like it's in your mind's eye. So, and, you know, anything you can think, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. That's like, oh, here they go. It was so funny because I think the last time I was here, someone brought that up, and I was just like, huh, dirt bikes, this is downtown. But now I see.
Oh, we're good.
What do we normally
All
stop at?
right. Well, that was terrific. Thank you for bringing that topic, and thank you for reading my book or rereading my book.
Rereading it. I don't know, flip through. What it came like when I graduated college. So
It came out in 2017.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, over 10 years of lasting knowledge. So
That's not 10 years.
just about. Soon come, like I'm manifesting. We're gonna have 10-year anniversary.
Yes,
so don't mind me. I'm skipping date. It's been 10 years since I've been out of school.
Yeah, and guys, make sure if you want, read my book again if you haven't already, or if you, if you've already read it again. And if you haven't already, then read it. But I can tell you what, every time I reread my book, I learn something new.
Yes.
And I think that's just the most amazing thing ever. Yes. So if you've already read it, read it again.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, if you don't know what the title of the book is, it's When Black Women Speak, the Universe Listens. And you say it with like fervor, it feels better.
And just to say, it's not a book just for women. It's for everyone. It's not just for Black people. It's for everyone. But because I'm telling the story as a Black woman, that's why it's called Black Women Speak.
Okay, so that's like a new thing. I didn't even know that. Insider with the author.
All right, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Zari, for joining us. And we look forward to chatting with you again next week. Until then, this is Arvette.
And this is Steven.
Zari.
Teron.
Rodney.
Bye, y'all.